now, we are hard at work to bring a major natural gas processing plant to southwestern Pennsylvania. The best argument we can make to the company behind the project is Pennsylvania's embrace of free markets.
Isn't that what they're telling corporate America? Free money, just come and we'll hand it out to you. And you wonder why this report put out by the Grapevine Project at the Illinois State University, pointing out that as a nation, the state governments in this country will spend 10.8% less on higher education this year than they did last year. And you look at our state here in Pennsylvania, 18.3% less than we spent last year. And you go, where'd that money go? You know, if we're not investing in higher education, if we're not investing in the future of our nation and our future of our most precious resource, our children, what are we doing with it? Oh, yeah, we're like he said, $1.7 billion to the Grand Cracker plant that was going to probably be built there anyway. It was just about free money. And now I see, it's been almost 2 years. It's going on 2 years now that the professors at the state universities have been without a contract. Today had a big rally. Wendy Lynne Lee, professor of philosophy at Bloomsburg University, was there today. Wendy Lynn, thanks for taking time for me.
Hi, it's nice to be here. I'm sorry if my throat is scratchy. I did a lot of yelling this morning.
I can imagine, and there's a lot to yell about. I mean, I look at this report, out 18.3% less in higher ed spending this year than last year, and you go, where's that money coming from? Oh, yeah, your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And what frustrates me is, some folks seem to be okay with it.
I think that if the public had a better understanding of just what that education is about, just what it is that they're getting for their money, I think that they would realize that our contract negotiations are much less about, for example, our salaries and much more about all of the other things that money goes to pay for with respect to the quality of the kinds of programs that middle-class kids can get from state universities.
Yeah, but at the end of this, I mean, you're looking at this contract negotiation, it seems to me to be more, and this is just an outsider's perspective from the reports and the folks that I've talked to, this seems more about ideology than actual numbers. I mean, I keep hearing, well, we're looking 20 years down the road or 30 years down. What if, what might, if Governor Corbett stays, if we make him King Corbett and these 18.3% cuts happen year after year after year, sorry, we're not going to be able to pay you or anybody else for that matter.
Oh, yeah. I have written about this some, and I think that you're dead on. I think that this is very much ideological. And what I was just listening to a moment ago about the cracker plant in the southwest part of the state, it's all of a piece with the same ideology. To privatize public education is not really different than privatizing other kinds of what used to be public services, or privatizing public agencies, for example, the Department of Environmental Protection. These may be public servants, but these are public servants who are, for all practical purposes and intents, serving the purposes of what I regard as a profoundly corrupt Pennsylvania government in the interest of both privatizing public services and ensuring that campaign donors are paid off.
Yeah, I got to be honest. You bring up the corrupt government thing, and there are times where I agree with my right wing friends that government's bad, and I say you're right. Conservative run government, that's bad. I mean the Metcalfs, the Corbetts, the Turzais, all of these. I'm sorry, the way they've run things, not thrilled with.
No. But
I can throw Rendell in there as well, and some of those folks as well. We're talking. Any of these corporate people, I fear.
Oh yeah, and I think the difference between, say, the kinds of corruption that we might have found in the Rendell government, and I was not a huge fan of Rendell either, but the difference is still that Corbett does, I think, essentially what he said he was going to do when the far right effectively elected him, when they elected him, that he was going to cut spending, that he was going to privatize. Now, I think what we're actually living, at least for those folks who voted for him, is a kind of be careful what you wish for, because you just might very well get it. I don't think he has a shot at being reelected. I don't think he's got much shot there. I think that some investigations, both into DEP and Kathleen Kane's into Sandusky, I think are probably going to doom Corbett. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't get someone equally as ideologically hell-bent on destroying Pennsylvania public service, public higher education.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I mean, the one thing I guess I can give Corbett credit for is he told you what he was going to do, and he's been quite honest. I remember right when he took office, he had appointed a privatization commission, not to study what could be privatized, but to go after and privatize what could be done. So it wasn't a directive of let's find out what we can. It's a directive of go out and do it.
Yeah. I mean, when you consider his appointments, say Michael Krancer of the Department of Environmental Protection. These are guys who come from precisely the industries who not only donated to his campaign, right, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but are also the guys who, in fact, how do I want to put it, who represent, who really epitomize the kind of privatizing that he promised he would do. So that Michael Krancer's coming from Exelon, right, is no surprising appointment at all. I think Corbett's governorship is, from his point of view, just a rehearsal, kind of like it was for Tom Ridge. It's kind of a rehearsal for his real dream job, which is with big energy and big extraction.
Yeah, well, and where the big paychecks are, you're right. But, here's the thing, Wendy, and I look at this and, you bring up the privatization thing. And to bring this back to your contract and to the state universities, I've been saying for the longest time, education is the next place for privatization. What they've already done to higher ed on a number of levels with these for-profit universities, they're going to continue to do with the state system, because this is one of the largest state systems of higher education in the country and one of the top in the world. You've got to privatize. There's a lot of profit to be made there. The same thing that they're doing with K through 12 as well. So is the contract that the fight that's going on right now, do you think that has anything to do with opening up that for-profit model that you see these other places?
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah, this is a subject, one of my colleagues, I have a very good colleague in the philosophy department at Bloom named Kurt Smith, and he and I have worked on issues like that. The let's be the next Phoenix model of higher ed for some years now. When you look at what some of their contract proposals are, and you sort of look at them in aggregate, right, how they all fit together, the kind of model that you see is a model where education is no longer about the acquisition of knowledge. It's no longer about art. It's no longer about the humanities. It's no longer about beauty. It's about
it's a commodity.
Doing as much as we possibly can, just enough to ensure that we have workers to supply to the industries that this government subsidizes.
Yeah, it's a commodity.
So, a commodity. So that the state schools are effectively, they're not just training centers. They're more like public relations firms and machinery for the product of something called a student for a little while, but really just a worker who is precisely tooled for the industries that the governor wants to see privatized in the state. So, that's something we have to both resist in the contract and at the local level as well, because we see a lot of creeping industrialization or Walmartification of our general education programs, for example, the dumbing down of education to turn students into widgets who don't ever ask a critical question ever in their lives.
Well,
widgets who don't resist.
Oh, that's the country that the wealth class envisions. And I think George Carlin said it 20 years ago. People smart enough to push the buttons and move the paper around, but not smart enough to ask why.
Yeah, and people just smart enough to push those buttons and move that paper and be perfectly satisfied. Think that they've got genuinely free choices when they're picking between Coke and Pepsi, on the shelves of the Walmart. That they will identify that kind of material acquisition with what freedom really is.
Yeah, a nation of epsilons.
Yeah. I mean, these are the people we had someone come, I guess it was about a year ago, to our campus to give a lecture about the natural gas boom in the state. And one of the things she said that I found most memorable and telling was that when she saw how much young people could make, and particularly in this case, young men could make, driving rigs for the gas, as she put it, she looked right out onto this audience of students and she said, you don't really need all of this, right? Here are the good paying jobs, and all that requires is 18 months, and a fancy driver's license. And anyone who is an academic or actually thinks that education is more than training in that audience was horrified. Was just horrified.
Well, but it goes to show the exact mentality of the people who are making policy in this country, and you hear it on both sides of the aisle. I mean, it's about getting. My generation, I'm 45. My generation was taught that was my only way into the middle class.
Yeah. No, I'm 53, and I sometimes say to my fellows, and I fear greatly that it could be true, that I feel like my generation of academics is the last generation of real academics, at least in the humanities, where we still actually hold on to what seem increasingly quaint ideals about the beauty of ideas.
Which is why I think
Which
is why I think this contract right now is so important, because this is, to me, and just from an outsider's perspective, this to me is which direction are we going to go? I mean, we've seen the push towards privatizing, every asset the states has, and I see the state system of higher education. I see these universities as assets of me and other taxpayers, of we the people, and to see them co-opted and see them destroyed infuriates me.
Yeah. Well, when you look at very particular aspects of the contract offer, for example, class size, and that's something that we take very, very seriously, maybe particularly in the humanities, but I think really across the colleges, across the curriculum. Class size is very important to us because there are only so many students in a classroom that I can really, really reach well, that I can educate. And especially in a philosophy class, which relies on dialogue and exchange, 150 students, that's just a kind of absurdity to me. But, part of what they would really like to see are much larger classes, right, that it just, no matter how hard we try, are going to end up being dumbed down.
Yep.
And they would like to see more and more of those courses online and more of those courses taught by adjuncts. And so once you add all that together, what do you actually need a professoriate for? Right? You don't really need a thoughtful, creative, researching professoriate if all you are really teaching is a little bit of intro to this and intro to that, just enough to say students can leave with a paper that says I'm edumacated.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm with you. And it's a scary prospect of what the future will be. And I had read something the other day that the next generation, my kids, they're going to be very quick at recalling very, very quick facts, very short facts, but actually being able to sit and think through complex problems is going to be a struggle for that generation.
Well, one of the differences between merely having access to information and actually having knowledge is being able to do something with the information and see the connection among facts, among ideas, to be able to critically evaluate what's put before you and not take it for granted that it's necessarily true until you can really come to comprehend it. we lose that. My argument is that we lose that. We lose public education, K through 12 and higher ed. We lose the democracy, because a democracy depends upon a citizenry educated well enough to be able to make discerning and thoughtful votes.
Yep.
Without that, we don't have anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question then. What do we do to get this thing passed? I know I understand the chancellor's leaving. Is that going to change any of the dynamics? Because it's been my thought that he's one of these ideologues who he's making a name for himself. So he made a good enough a name that he's going on to another job. What's this going to mean when he leaves?
I honestly don't think anyone has the answer to that question exactly yet, because he hasn't left yet. No doubt it's going to change the dynamics, but in what direction, I think it's very hard to say. And I bet that it's hard to say on the other side, too. I bet they don't have a very clear beat on this either.
Right.
But the one thing I think I can say with some real confidence is that it doesn't alter the strategy on our side of this equation. For folks in APSCUF, right, the PASSHE faculty union, I think I'm speaking pretty much for all of us when I say that what we're really committed to is a contract that is fair to us and that doesn't require us to sell out, right? Which we're not going to do, right? We're just not going to do it. Sell out our adjunct faculty, our younger untenured faculty, or our retirees. At either end of the state's contract proposals is this part of the package is that we would sell out at one end or the other, that either retirement packages would be inadequate or that we're going to absolutely slash and burn the wages of
the next
adjuncts.
generation. Yeah.
We will not do that. So our strategy is going to remain the same. It will be interesting to see whether or not, now that we've had this awesome demonstration this morning, this just excellent turnout of a demonstration this morning, it will be very interesting to see what they do next. Because surely, if they're smart, they can see that we are serious and that we care so much about our university system and our students that we stood out there in the freezing cold today for several hours in order to get our message to them.
Well, I understand it was an outstanding event, a lot of good coverage. We've got pictures at our Facebook page. Put some up on the website. As this goes down the line, I would love to have you back and fill us in on where this is going. And I hope for a speedy and quick resolution to this, because, I love hearing people talk about certainty. It would be nice if we had some certainty for the students of the next semester. Oh, yeah.
We all have classes that we all would far and away prefer to be returning to. Nobody wants a strike.
Nope.
And there's nobody out here who likes the idea of a strike. But what we also know, cliched though it might sound, but it's true, is that the best way we can avoid this strike is to be loaded for bear in the event that we have to go out.
Yeah, the best defense is a good offense. Wendy,
Yep.
I appreciate the time. And again, I'd love to have you back as this moves on down the road.
You bet.
Wendy Lynne Lee, professor of philosophy at Bloomsburg University. Thanks so much. Quick break. Back after this. 1-888-520-RICK. 1-888-520-7425.
Together, we can make America better. The Rick Smith Show.
Now, we are hard at work to bring a major natural gas processing plant to South.